showdown there, and that's from my daimyo himself. What a boss. What's going on, guys? My name is Hawkwood Online. We are going to be playing some Total War Shogun 2, a new campaign, playing as the Shimazu, the guys in green, on legendary difficulty. I hope you guys are pumped. Let's do it. Alright guys, well this is going to be my very first ever YouTube series, so if you guys have any feedback for me, positive or negative, leave it in the comments so I can kind of take it into account and see if I can refine how I produce these videos and make some good content for you guys. I am going to play a long campaign. And the reason is that by the time short campaign, you don't have to capture enough of Japan, I feel like, for it to be a challenge. A long campaign, you really have to capture a decent chunk, but they can still fight back. By the time you hit 40 provinces, those last 23 provinces left on the map are really not a big obstacle. It's kind of just a grind. So that's why I'm sticking with long. The reason I'm choosing the Shimazu for my first ever YouTube series, if you haven't been playing the game for a very long time, or you just bought it online, or you have decided to take the challenge and step up to legendary difficulty, the Shimazu are a good faction to start with because they have a geographic benefit of being quite isolated, and you can kind of just work your way across Japan in one direction, only have one front, not dealing with war on multiple sides. They also start near a bunch of trade nodes, so they can get an economic advantage kind of early on in the game, and they have what is, I think, one of the simpler units as their specialty unit, the Katana Samurai. And I think that having a strong, heavy frontline infantry unit that can win against basically any other unit in a one-on-one fight and just charging them forward makes it nice and easy for you to play out those battles without anything too complicated, like using, advanced skirmishing tactics or micromanaging cavalry to make sure it does its job properly. These guys are kind of a safe bet because of their lower upkeep cost and recruitment cost and their superior Katana Samurai. They can have a really solid front line that you can just charge into the enemy. And these guys, the Shimazu being the Masters of Integrity, they have a +1 bonus to loyalty of all generals in their clan, which is really useful as a beginner, because if you do something accidentally that lowers your daimyo's honor, for example looting settlements or something like that, the loyalty of your generals is a bit higher, so they're less likely to abandon or betray you. So there's a bit of a safety net there for you if you do things that perhaps aren't as strategically beneficial as you might think, and you lose some honor on your daimyo. It's a good safety net to have that. Let's jump in and get this campaign started. Like I said, guys, I do appreciate that feedback. If you like what you're seeing, give it a like. If you dislike it, feel free to dislike it, but I would always obviously appreciate positive or negative feedback on the video. Nobody dislikes hearing good things, but I do want to hear if you guys see something in the game that I've maybe missed, that despite my years of playing, you guys have a bit more information on something, but also about producing the videos, if there's anything you can work on.
This is Sengoku Jidai, the age of the country at war. For 200 years, the Ashikaga shoguns have ruled from Kyoto. Great splendor and power were theirs. Now the overmighty clans no longer obey. The time has come for a new warlord to become shogun. But who will be victorious? Shimazu lands have always provided for our people. Our enemies are many and envious. They threaten our borders and look for any weakness. We trace a line back to the first shogun Yoritomo. Loyalty runs deep in the Shimazu. It is in our blood, our traditions. And in battle, Our swordsmen are the envy of Japan. No blade is swifter or more feared than ours. Bishamonten, the war god, has woken. Now is the time to defeat our enemies. All will bow to the Shimazu clan. We wait no longer. Destiny calls. We are the Shimazu. This is an auspicious time for our clan. Not only have we established ourselves as masters of Satsuma province, but fate has brought us into contact with a trade ship from the far west. Shipwrecked upon the shores of Tanegashima, the Namban brought with them the promise of lucrative trade. More importantly, they brought teppo, firearms, simple to operate, yet deadly in their effect. Establishing trade relations with the Namban should be a priority, for their weapons could be the key to our military superiority in Kyushu. It is also vital that we begin to extend our power beyond the bounds of Satsuma. Osumi should be our first target. We are already at war with the ruling Ito clan, and its castle is dangerously close to our borders. It must be captured before the Ito have a chance to muster an army there. We may then proceed with their total subjugation, or alternatively, expansion into Higo. We are not currently at odds with the Sagara, the masters there. But seizure of their province will mean a source of superior war horses and a taste of total and lasting victory. With southern Kyushu firmly under our control, none of the other clans will be able to resist. Kyushu will be ours. But we must beware of drawing the ire of Kyoto. Should the shogunate perceive our growing influence as a threat, it will be necessary to defend ourselves against the shogun and his allies. In that event, we must be prepared to fend off all who would attack us, no matter from where that threat emerges. If the shogun wishes to halt our expansion, let him come here
and reckon with us himself. Alright. There's our first mission, capture Asumi, and we get call to arms, which gives us an extra recruitment slot in all our provinces. Military ruler of all Japan. Alright. So guys, we've already, in that introduction, received a few little recommendations. So there's trade nearby. Firearms are something to consider if we want to go down the path of turning to Christianity. I'm still not 100% on it, but it is really, really tempting. Higo is a great place to expand because cavalry are going to be better if you recruit them there because they have the superior war horses, but we do have to deal with the Ito first. My rough strategy, my rough plan, early game is to just spam cheap Ashikaga units to capture a decent amount of provinces here. Once I have everything I need to start cranking out high quality units, and in my home province in Satsuma, as the Shimazu, you start off with a sword school and a blacksmith that you can upgrade. You can give extra armor or extra weapon skill. I think generally, even though you at the maximum level, the armorer only gives 3 armor, I think it's better than the 4 melee attack you get when this is fully upgraded. The reason is basically that armor allows you to take a lot of arrows and that sort of thing before you get into combat, so it can keep your numbers high if your skirmishing capacity is low and the enemy is targeting your high value units. They do tend to target samurai units on the battlefield. I think the AI, they fire on them a lot over, say, Ashigaru or something like that. So these guys need to be able to sponge a little bit of arrow fire, which is why the armor is a bit more useful, I think. Not to mention it makes them a bit more survivable in combat as well, allowing for things like charges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my full upgrades for armor, and by that time it'll probably be mid-game, and I will then use my armored up heavy katana samurai that I'll start recruiting a little later in the game to have a really solid front line. I'm going to have a lot of katana samurai in my average army, probably like maybe 10, 15, maybe not quite 15, but somewhere between there. Then, since I'm not going to have any spear infantry in my infantry corps, I need to deal with enemy cavalry somehow. So and have some like high, fast-moving units to deal with generals and that sort of thing. So that's where this province here, Higo, with its superior horses, comes in. We're going to build Yari cavalry, spear cavalry, who have an advantage over enemy cavalry because they are using the spear, the Yari. So they're the most effective cavalry killers that are on horseback themselves. A one-on-one fight between Yari cavalry and a katana cavalry unit usually ends up with the Yari cavalry unit being on top. So that's the plan there, have a big component of cavalry to deal with enemy cavalry and get some nice rear charges. And then the final component, early game, I'll probably just use bow Ashigaru, but late game, if I do actually end up converting to Christianity, capturing a province like Buzen, which has bonuses to accuracy of ranged units, and then being able to recruit imported matchlock Ashigaru, if I allow a Nanban trade port, the Christian trade port, to be built, then that will allow me to get a missile corps of somewhat affordable but super effective in terms of morale units. So I am thinking that it would be fun to have a bunch of those guys to fire off a few volleys and then retreat back behind my katana samurai, and then the katana samurai charge in, and then the Yari cavalry on the flanks. That's kind of my long-term army structure that I want to have. Let's take a look at the family tree. So we have our daimyo who's 31 years old. We'll see if he makes it to the end of the campaign. He's self-centered, so +1 melee attack to him and his bodyguard, which is not amazing, but it's obviously every little bit helps. Same thing with Lucky, not amazing, but it takes away 2% from the chance of him being assassinated, so, you know, not a big deal, but why not? We hopefully will get him into some combat so that he can get some other extra abilities to make him a bit scarier, a bit more tough in battle. He's got 3 sons, which is super useful because they're all not too far away from entering the battlefield themselves, from coming of age. So we'll hopefully be able to get these guys fighting. We've got an unrelated general who's 25 years old, so he's primed for having some kids, which is why we're actually going to adopt Tomokata Tanageshima into the family. He's now Tomokata Shimazu, a bit more loyal, and he's going to be a happy member of our family. We can hopefully marry him off somewhere and get some kids going, who knows. Takahisa is going to be followed. If he survives this whole campaign, I'll be surprised because he's a little older than some of the other daimyos, but if he survives all the way through, we'll have him as shogun, but his son Yoshihisa, or one of his other younger sons, might end up becoming daimyo if something terrible happens on the battlefield or something. Alright, in terms of a bit of setup for the campaign, diplomacy, not really much I can do first turn. We're trading with our northern neighbors, Sagara. We're already at war with the Ito, who we are going to try and stamp out nice and quick. Finances, we're not making too much money, but, you know, that's to be expected. I always think that in terms of researching the mastery of arts, it's always better to start with the economic stuff, get some early money, because if your army is a bit more powerful because you've researched stuff here, that doesn't really make up for the fact that you can't afford many troops. So I think it's always a bit more useful to go for the economic stuff. Way of Chi. Going to maybe go as far as equal fields, and then I'll jump over here to Heaven and Earth, because I want to get that encampment building that is unlocked there, so that I can start upgrading the armor of my units, or the accuracy, get the best cavalry, get the best infantry that I can possibly get. We'll see what happens with our conversion to Christianity. One thing that's super important, since we have these trade ports nearby, these trade nodes, it's really important to build up, I think, the harbor nice and early, so you can start producing some ships to capture those points to lock out anyone else from taking them. And then, hopefully build some trade ships and start making some money. Let's get our daimyo into the army, and we're going to go off to our first battle. Here's the Ito. They have a reinforcing force, reinforcing army of light cavalry, 2 Yari Ashigaru and a Bow Ashigaru. And then we've got the Bow Ashigaru and the samurai retainers inside. So we're going to start this campaign with our very first battle, taking an Ito settlement. And then we'll build up some forces once we've gotten a bit of a defense. Once we've calmed down this province, once they've settled down from us invading it, then we'll start moving north and take out the rest of the Ito. And then we'll start figuring out whether we're going to be fighting the Otomo or the Sagara next. I'd prefer the Sagara, but they usually end up getting wiped out by the Otomo or the Shoni, so they probably won't survive too long, I think. Alrighty. The AI is probably... we don't want fog. Taking away visibility from our archers is unnecessary. Let's listen to what our daimyo has to say for the very first battle. Hopefully it's inspiring.
刀は抜いた。敵方に一人でも生き残りがいる限り、この刀鞘には収めん。すべてはお家のためじゃ。我が敵は奴らの領主と一門に忠誠を誓う勇敢な侍どもだ。あの者どもを滅ぼすとなると心が痛むが、これも運命のなせる技。仕方なかろう。我が計略は簡単明瞭。この石垣を叩き崩すのじゃ。それができれば乗り越えるまで、乗り越えられねば敵の屍を積んで登るまでよ。これだけは約束する。戦が終わったら忙しくなる。跳ねた敵の首を集めて数えんとならんからな。
Seems like he can't decide whether he's going to be respectful and being like, these guys are honorable, or he wants to count their heads. Alright, so the reinforcements are going to probably come from here, in my experience, so we're going to try and cut them off by sending our troops, deploying our troops over this direction. And we want our spearmen up the front, because they have some light cavalry, and light cavalry have spears themselves, so they're actually reasonably effective against generals. We don't want them to be sniped out. Same thing with our archers. We want our spears to take the brunt of the hit. These guys are expensive to keep in your army in terms of upkeep cost, and they're just not as effective in any role as other units, so I probably will delete them. Almost definitely will delete them after this first turn, after I've used them to take most of the heat. I don't really care if they survive the battle or not. I'm going to use them as a meat shield and try and keep the rest of these guys alive. Alright, what have we got? Here they come. Very good, very good. I have a long line there. We'll have our archers behind, and our general there. In fact, we'll move up the archers a bit. Alright. Here comes their light cavalry. Let's see if we can just charge them straight away. Looks like they're kind of not quite in position. Might be able to get some good charges here on the Yari samurai. Actually, I'll leave the archers a bit further back so they get into position faster. Oh, gotta pull my cavalry back there. Alright. Beautiful. Slaughtered those guys. Their morale's going to be a bit shaky now. I do actually want to try and have some survivors in this battle from the enemy. Reason being is if they escape and run off the battlefield, then that army will survive. I'll be able to fight them again. And that will mean I get the chance to fight them and get some more experience for my soldiers. It looks like they have enough that there'll be some survivors. Gonna turn the archers off fire at will. We don't need them firing into our men. Boa Shigaru. Alright, we'll actually leave it there. I want these guys to survive because, like I said, I want to get the chance for my daimyo to have a second battle. And then that will mean we get to have a bit more experience. Alright, let's speed things up as we march in this direction. On legendary difficulty, you'll notice there's no battle map. Once you start the battle, it disappears. And you can't go slow motion. So if you've been playing on lower difficulty, something that you need to spot is that there are a few battle features, if you do decide to play legendary, that are gone to make the game a bit more difficult for you, which is fair enough. You can still get by once you get used to it, but it does definitely remove some features that can be useful in lower difficulty campaigns. It's basically, actually you get the same effect from turning battle realism on in lower difficulties, so you can actually get rid of this stuff if you want to give yourself a bit more of a challenge, but you're not quite ready to jump to legendary difficulty. Shogun 2 is good in that the bonuses that enemies get on higher difficulties, like enemy soldiers, they aren't too significant. I think it's only like, you know, a bit of morale, maybe a bit of like a few little stat bonuses, but generally speaking, you won't encounter a situation where your high-level troops, one-on-one, will lose against enemy low-level troops. They don't have any like over-the-top bonuses. So it's a really good thing about this game, because in some Total War games, the high difficulty means the AI doesn't really change. It maybe is a bit more aggressive, whereas it's quite a bit more aggressive in Shogun, I find. But it doesn't really get all that scary, apart from having just higher stats, which really can be frustrating when you're recruiting really high quality troops and you're finding that they're not very useful because the AI has basically cheats. They have better troops than you. Now these bow Ashikaga that the enemy have inside the fort, they're fixated on my infantry. There's lots of infantry over there, so they're facing that direction. They're not going to move, which gives me the chance to march up my bow Ashikaga, hopefully in range, and pick off these samurai retainers. They're pretty solid in infantry, in direct melee combat. Don't really want them on the field. So if I can take them out, that's good news. They're a bit far back, but I don't want to make this battle too slow and boring for you guys. We are going to inspire these guys. Reason being is their accuracy actually benefits from the general's ability to inspire them. Firing the first volley while moving, a bit risky, but hopefully we get a decent number of kills. Only 4. Usually better to wait till they're standing still, but like I said, I want to keep this interesting for you guys, so gonna speed things up. Hopefully they stop in range, but I get the feeling they're not going to. Yeah, they've gone out of range. Bit annoying. Alright, we'll move these guys over. The Inspire's already wearing off, but fortunately we have... Oop, they started moving again. God damn. Being very difficult. If I get too close to the walls of the gatehouse, they won't be able to fire because of line of sight block. So I'm not sure if I can actually fire here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Alrighty. How about now? Yes, we got a few shots going. Oh, and they're coming closer, which is good news. They are moving, which is going to reduce our accuracy a little bit, but we'll just stop firing. They've stopped moving. They're nice and close. We might need to move back because I don't think they can shoot over the wall. If we're lucky, rather than firing in a big arch over the wall, they might even get a decent angle to fire directly at them, which is going to be useful. A bit more accurate that way. Unfortunately, though, we lost a volley there because these guys aren't too bad at tracking units moving, like slower units, infantry units moving. These guys can track them reasonably well. They'll lead their shots a bit, but if they do change direction or they slow down a bit suddenly or stop altogether, then you'll find because they were leading their shots, the volley will usually miss. That's why it's better to only hit them when they're standing still, or if they're moving consistently in one direction, it's not too bad, but it can be a bit of a risk losing some ammunition that way. Only 14 of them left. We still have a decent amount of ammo, which is good. If I can, I'd like to save a bit of ammo just to thin out the numbers of the bow Ashikaga here. These guys are doing pretty well. With my generals, I might get them dismounted and get them climbing the walls here, because I want my general to be in a bit of combat early on in the game. If your general doesn't already have a bonus to his morale, or the morale of all his troops, then there's a way that you can get some bonus morale by picking up the Brave trait. While retainers, when your general levels up, level 1, level 3, level 6, I think it is, or level 5, yeah, level 6, while your general, his retainers are pretty random, there are certain skills that you can pick up, certain traits you can pick up from your general being involved in combat or something like that. If he and his bodyguard are in a fight and they don't run away, then there's a 1 in 5 chance after that battle that he will get the Brave trait, which gives +1 morale for all his troops. Super useful. Oh, jeez. See, that's them predicting leading their shots when the samurais stopped. But we'll see what happens here. But yeah, so get him in combat a little bit. I want to get him to climb the walls, get into some fights, because that will mean he has a 1 in 5 chance of picking up the Brave trait, and his morale, and the morale of all his troops will get better. Can we finish these guys off? It looks like we are going to lose all our ammo on these guys. Cool, another few dead, not bad. Only 3 left. Might be time to start working on these other guys. Oh! Oh, in the throat! Oh, quick showdown there. And that's from my daimyo himself. What a boss. Get in there, boy. Get him charging there, because why not? We'll stop firing with our archers. This has been pretty ideal. We've taken very light casualties on the units I want to keep, and only the Yari Samurai have taken sizable casualties, but I don't really mind that. Our daimyo has already proven himself to be a bit of a boss, leading from the front, stabbing a dude right away. Looks like we're gonna have a pretty cool guy leading our clan for a little while. Not afraid to get involved himself. Still only pretty light casualties, which is good. These guys are going to fight to the death. They won't rout because they're in the fort and they have infinite morale. They do fight worse when you see them wavering and that sort of thing. When it has that little icon that says fighting to the death, like that skull, they do fight a little worse than they otherwise would. But it's not like they'll run away, so we do have to slaughter every single one, which is totally fine with me. Looks like there's only one left. He served his clan well, didn't run away, but there he goes. Alright, there's our captured fort. These guys, I mean the battle's over, but want to go get our horses, we don't want them running away. Decisive victory, good start. So we've taken our first province from our enemies, and we'll queue up some units and buildings. We'll spend the rest of our money. Peacefully occupy that one. Because every town you capture has this resistance to invaders, it goes down 1 every turn. There's a trick you can do where it's really useful to intentionally let it rebel while your army's still in the area, and then destroy the rebel army. After 2 turns of them being unhappy, there'll be an army spawn, you can destroy it, and then you get a bonus to public order for having a military crackdown. And so that will usually counter this little issue here. So that's what I'm going to do. So that means I have to take my army outside of the settlement, so that the public order doesn't benefit too much from the garrisoned forces, just to guarantee that they will rebel. and then we can deal with that rebellion. But there were some survivors from the battle that ran away, that reinforcing army, so we do want to chase them down and get some experience on my second general, get him involved in the combat. This is an auto-resolve. I don't think I'm going to take any losses here. Did I? Yeah, 0, there you go. They're dealt with. My second general, the adopted son of the Shimazu, is going to get a little bit of experience from that battle, which is good stuff. And even my daimyo got a little bit of experience there. Then I'll put these guys back here. Don't want to keep these guys because you can see 183 upkeep, whereas 92 upkeep for Yari Ashigaru, and they are more effective, really, at every role in the game. I know it doesn't make sense because the Yari Samurai is supposed to be the big bad version of the Yari Ashigaru, but these guys don't have the ability to make a wall, whereas these guys have the Yari wall ability, and that's super useful on the battlefield early game before massive amounts of archers and superior infantry start entering the battlefield. Those guys can hold for a really long time. Alrighty, so we've got our angry province here. We're going to recruit some Ashigaru. We can actually recruit 2, normally only 1, but because of this call to arms, we've got that little Bennett bonus, and we'll get 1 going there. I think that's that. Got our mastery of the arts there. Next turn we'll move back here so our men can replenish in our own territory. We'll combine those extra troops we're recruiting, and once the rebellion spawns we'll quickly deal with that, and then we'll march our army up to Hyuga. But that's for next episode. We'll see what happens. Thanks for joining me for my first ever episode. If you guys have enjoyed it, please, like I said, like, subscribe, leave comments. If you have questions about anything I've done in the game in terms of my explanations, let me know and I'll try to get back to you guys and give you some information on what I've done. But yeah, hopefully you guys can be here for the start of this journey and see how the channel grows. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.